What would you do if the life you meticulously built, the future you dreamed of, was shattered by a single sheet of paper for Ivana Sterling? 7 months pregnant and standing in the dream brownstone she'd just finished renovating. That paper wasn't just paper, it was a declaration of war on her heart, signed by the man who had vowed to love her forever. This isn't just a story of betrayal. It's a story of what happens in the moments after the world ends. When the tears dry and you're left with a choice: crumble into dust or rise from the ashes. What if rising meant answering a call from a billionaire ghost from your past with a private jet waiting on the tarmac? Stay with us as we unfold the incredible true life saga of Ivana Sterling. The late August air in New York was thick and heavy, the kind of humidity that clung to your skin like a second layer. From the second-floor window of her Brooklyn Heights brownstone, Ivana Sterling watched the sun dip below the Manhattan skyline, painting the sky in fiery strokes of orange and purple. Her hand rested instinctively on the swell of her belly, a gentle protective gesture. Inside her baby girl kicked a tiny, reassuring flutter that had become the anchor of her world. Life, for all intents and purposes, was perfect. At 32, Ivana was a rising star in the architectural world, known for her ability to blend historic preservation with stark modern minimalism. This brownstone was her masterpiece, a 3-year labor of love she and her husband Liam had poured their souls and savings into. Every exposed brick, every reclaimed wood beam, every pane of custom-blown glass was a testament to the future they were building. Liam. Just thinking his name brought a smile to her face. Liam Sterling was the golden boy of Sterling Capital, the boutique investment firm he'd built from the ground up. He was charismatic, wickedly smart, and devastatingly handsome, with a jawline that could cut glass and eyes the color of a stormy sea. They were the city's power couple, their pictures occasionally gracing the society pages, the brilliant architect and the maverick financier. Tonight was their 5th wedding anniversary. Ivana had planned everything to perfection. A private chef was prepping a 3-course meal in their state-of-the-art kitchen. A bottle of vintage Dom Perignon for Liam, sparkling cider for her, was chilling. She wore a simple, elegant navy silk dress that draped beautifully over her bump, a gift from him, from their last trip to Paris. She checked the time on her phone. 7:30 p.m. Liam was late, but that wasn't unusual. A deal closing a last-minute meeting the world of high finance didn't adhere to a 9-to-5 schedule. She sent a quick text. "Hey, handsome, your anniversary dinner is waiting. Don't be too late. Love you." An hour passed. The chef plated the appetizers, covering them to keep them warm. Ivana's smile began to feel strained. She tried calling him. Straight to voicemail. A knot of anxiety, cold and tight, began to form in her stomach. This was unlike him. Even on his busiest days, he always answered her calls. At 9:15 p.m., she heard a key in the lock. Relief washed over her so intensely it made her dizzy. She stood up, ready to greet him with a playful scolding and a loving kiss. But the man who walked in was not the Liam she knew. His shoulders were slumped, his usual confident swagger gone. He didn't look at her, his gaze fixed on the polished walnut floors. He was carrying his briefcase, a sleek leather attaché case from Tom Ford. "Liam." "Honey." "Are you okay?" she asked, her voice laced with concern. "I was so worried. The chef has been here for hours." He finally looked up, and the coldness in his eyes stole her breath. There was no warmth, no love, just a flat, empty distance. It was the look a stranger gives you on the subway. "We need to talk, Ivana," he said, his voice devoid of emotion. He walked past her, ignoring the beautifully set dining table, and placed his briefcase on the marble island in the kitchen. He clicked it open. Ivana's heart hammered against her ribs. This wasn't about a bad day at work. This was something else. Something terrible. He pulled out a single thick manila envelope and slid it across the counter towards her. It landed with a soft, final thud. Her name was typed on the front, Ivana Sterling. "What is this?" she whispered, her hand trembling as she reached for it. The paper felt icy cold. "I think it's self-explanatory," he said, turning away to pour himself a glass of water. His back a rigid wall of indifference. Her fingers fumbled with the clasp. Inside was a stack of documents held together by a binder clip. The words on the top sheet leapt out at her, each letter a brand seared into her mind. Petition for dissolution of marriage. The world tilted on its axis. The sounds of the city outside, the distant sirens, the hum of traffic faded into a dull roar. Divorce. The word was an obscenity, a foreign concept that had no place in her perfect life. Liam. What is this? This is a joke, right? A sick, twisted anniversary joke. Her voice was a fragile thread. He finally turned to face her, leaning back against the counter. He took a sip of water, his movements slow and deliberate. "It's not a joke, Ivana. I'm leaving you. Leaving me." The words were nonsensical. "What are you talking about? We're having a baby. Our baby girl. We just finished this house. Our home." "The house is yours," he said coolly. "It's in your name. I'm not contesting it. In fact, I'm not contesting anything. The terms are all in there. They're very generous." Generous. He was talking about dismantling their life, their future, their family, as if it were a corporate merger. The coldness was more painful than shouting would have been. It was a calculated erasure of everything they had been. Why? The question was a raw, desperate plea. "Just tell me why, Liam. Did I do something? Is it the baby? Are you scared?" A flicker of something annoyance, impatience, crossed his face. "Don't make this more dramatic than it needs to be. It's not working. It hasn't been working for a long time. We've grown apart." "Grown apart?" she cried. The documents slipping from her numb fingers and scattering across the floor. "We were happy this morning. You kissed my stomach and told our daughter you couldn't wait to meet her. You told me you loved me." People say things, he said with a shrug that shattered what was left of her heart. She stared at him, truly seeing him for the first time in a long time. The man she loved was gone, replaced by this cruel, hollowed-out stranger. And then a small, sickening detail caught her eye. On the collar of his crisp white shirt, there was a faint smear of pink lipstick. It wasn't her shade. She only ever wore nude or deep red. The truth, ugly and visceral, slammed into her. "There's someone else," she stated the words, tasting like ash in her mouth. He didn't even have the decency to deny it. He simply straightened up, picking up his briefcase from the island. "My things are already packed. A car is waiting for me downstairs. Your lawyer can contact my lawyer. His details are in the packet." He walked towards the door, not even glancing back. "Liam, don't," she begged, tears finally streaming down her face, hot and furious. "Don't you walk out that door." Don't you do this to us, to our daughter." He paused at the door, his hand on the handle. For a fleeting second, she thought she saw a crack in his facade, a glimmer of the man he used to be. But it was gone as quickly as it came. "Goodbye, Ivana," he said, his voice flat. And then he was gone. The door clicked shut, the sound echoing in the cavernous silence of the house. Ivana stood frozen, surrounded by the ruins of her perfect life. The scent of roasted rosemary and thyme from the forgotten anniversary dinner filled the air, a sickeningly sweet perfume of betrayal. She looked down at the divorce papers scattered at her feet, then at her own trembling hands resting on the precious life she was carrying. She was alone, utterly and completely alone. And in that moment, as the first sob tore through her body, a wave of despair so profound washed over her that she thought she might drown in it. Her dream had become a prison, and the architect of her happiness had just handed her the eviction notice. The first 24 hours were a blur of shock and hollow disbelief. Ivana didn't sleep. She didn't eat. She just sat on the floor of the nursery she had so lovingly designed, surrounded by boxes of unassembled furniture and tiny unopened gifts. The soft grey walls, painted with whimsical white clouds, felt like a mockery. This room was a promise, and the promise had been broken. Her mind replayed Liam's exit on a torturous loop. The coldness in his eyes, the finality of the door clicking shut. She scrolled through their photos on her phone, vacations in Tuscany, Christmases in Aspen, candid shots of them laughing in this very house. It all felt like a lie, a carefully constructed fiction she had foolishly believed was real. Her friends and family started calling. Her sister Clara, who lived in California, her best friend Olivia. The news of Liam moving out had somehow already started to ripple through their social circle. She ignored the calls, the concerned texts piling up. How could she explain something she didn't understand herself? How could she say the words aloud? "My husband left me for another woman while I'm carrying his child." On the second day, a courier delivered a box. It was from Liam's office. Inside, there was no note, just a brand new top-of-the-line smartphone and a small card with a new number on it. The message was clear. He had changed his number, cutting off her direct access. All communication was now to be filtered, managed. This cold, corporate efficiency was almost more insulting than the betrayal itself. It was this act, this final impersonal severing, that finally broke through her stupor and ignited a spark of rage. The despair was still there, a heavy cloak she couldn't shrug off, but now it was laced with a white-hot anger. She deserved more than a shrug and a set of divorce papers. She deserved an explanation. She found the name of Liam's lawyer in the documents, a bulldog from a cutthroat Manhattan firm, known for handling high-conflict divorces. She knew there was no point calling him, but she knew where Liam worked. She knew his schedule. She knew that on Thursdays he had a standing lunch meeting at the grill in the Seagram building. Summoning a strength she didn't know she possessed, Ivana showered the hot water stinging her skin. She put on a black maternity dress, a pair of flat Chanel espadrilles, and her sunglasses a shield against the world. She looked in the mirror and barely recognized the woman staring back. Her eyes were puffy and bloodshot, her face pale and drawn. But there was a new hardness in her jaw. She was a mother now. She wasn't just fighting for herself. She was fighting for the small life that depended on her. The taxi ride into Midtown was surreal. The city buzzed with a life that felt alien to her. When she walked into the opulent mid-century modern dining room of the Grill, the maitre d' rushed over, a look of concern on his face. "Mrs. Sterling, we weren't expecting you." "I'm here to see my husband," she said, her voice steady as she scanned the room. And then she saw him. He was seated at his usual corner booth, and he wasn't alone. Across from him sat a young woman, probably no older than 24. She was stunning in that vapid Instagram model way, impossibly long blonde hair, surgically enhanced features, and a tiny, brightly colored dress that looked like it cost more than most people's rent. She was laughing a high, tinkling sound that grated on Ivana's nerves as she filmed Liam with her phone, a gaudy, diamond-encrusted case flashing under the restaurant's lights. This was Chloe Vance. Ivana knew of her, of course. She was a social media influencer, known for her lavish lifestyle, sponsored by dubious diet teas and crypto schemes. Liam had once scoffed at her, calling her a prime example of all style, no substance. And now he was sitting across from her, looking utterly captivated. Ivana walked towards the table, each step an act of sheer will. The low hum of conversation in the restaurant seemed to quiet as heads turned. Liam looked up, his smile freezing on his face as he saw her approaching. The color drained from his cheeks. "Ivana." He hissed, his voice a low warning. "What are you doing here?" "Chloe." Vance lowered her phone, her perfectly sculpted brows furrowing in confusion. "Liam. Babe, who is this?" Ivana ignored her. She looked directly at Liam, her gaze unwavering. "I deserved more than an envelope, Liam. Our daughter deserved more. We're not doing this here," he said, his eyes darting around nervously at the curious onlookers. "Oh, I think we are," Ivana said, her voice rising slightly, gaining strength. 5 years. We built a life, a home. We were supposed to be a family. You let me believe it. You let me plan for it. You let me carry your child for 7 months while you were... What? Auditioning your replacement? Chloe scoffed, finally inserting herself. "Excuse me. I'm no one's replacement. Liam and I have a real connection. Something you obviously couldn't give him." She looked Ivana up and down, her gaze lingering on her pregnant stomach with a look of pure disgust. He needs someone who can keep up with him, not someone nesting. The word so condescending, so dismissive of the miracle growing inside her, was like a slap in the face. Liam, seeing the scene escalating, stood up. "Ivana, that's enough. You're making a scene." "I'm making a scene?" she asked, a bitter, incredulous laugh escaping her lips. "You blew up my life. You threw me away like I was last season's trash, and I'm the one making a scene." "It was a business decision," he said, his voice dropping to a low, intense whisper, so only she could hear. Ivana recoiled as if he'd struck her. A business decision? Marrying me? Having a child with me? Was that all just part of some 5-year plan you've now liquidated? I needed stability. A certain image, he admitted, his eyes cold and hard as steel. The brilliant architect wife, the Brooklyn brownstone. It was good for my brand. It projected tradition, reliability. It helped me build my company. The cruelty of his confession was breathtaking. She hadn't just been a wife. She'd been an asset, a prop in the stage play of his ambition. But now he continued, gesturing vaguely towards Chloe. The brand is evolving. It's younger, faster, more global. A wife and a baby. It's an anchor. It's a liability I can no longer afford. The clinical, detached way he spoke about their life, about their unborn child, was the final devastating blow. It wasn't just that he didn't love her anymore. It was that he likely never had. Not in the way she had loved him. She had been a strategic acquisition, and her contract had expired. Tears welled in her eyes, but she refused to let them fall. She would not give him or his vapid companion the satisfaction. She looked from Liam's remorseless face to Chloe's smug smirk. She saw her future flash before her eyes. Messy custody battles, weekends with a father who saw his child as a liability, co-parenting with a woman who thought pregnancy was just nesting. No, she wouldn't do it. Her child deserved better. She took a deep breath, pulling herself up to her full height. "You're right about one thing, Liam," she said, her voice clear and strong, ringing with a newfound conviction. "This is a business decision." She turned and walked away, not looking back. She could feel the stares of the entire restaurant on her, but for the first time in days, she didn't feel shame. She felt a strange, terrifying sense of liberation. He had drawn the battle lines. He had defined the terms. She had been a fool to think it was about love. It was about assets and liabilities, and she would not be a liability. She would be the best goddamn asset her daughter ever had. As she stepped out of the restaurant into the glaring midday sun, she knew one thing for certain. The Ivana Sterling who had cried on the nursery floor was gone. A new one was being forged in the fires of this betrayal, and she was just getting started. Back in the hollow silence of the brownstone, the adrenaline that had carried Ivana through the confrontation at the grill evaporated, leaving behind an exhaustion that was bone deep. Liam's words echoed in her mind. A business decision. A liability. The sheer calculated cruelty of it was a poison seeping into every happy memory she had, twisting and corrupting it. For 2 more days, she drifted through the house like a ghost. She finally called her sister Clara and choked out a fractured version of the story, the words feeling like shards of glass in her throat. Clara was incandescent with rage, offering to fly in from San Francisco immediately to bring a lawyer to personally slash the tires on Liam's car. Ivana, while grateful for the ferocious loyalty, gently refused. She wasn't ready to be looked at with pity. She wasn't ready for the well-meaning but suffocating cocoon of her family's concern. She needed to think. The divorce papers sat on the kitchen island, a monument to her shattered life. She knew she needed a lawyer, but the thought of engaging in a battle of quantifying her life into assets and visitation schedules made her feel physically ill. She felt trapped. Liam had all the power, all the resources. He had an army of lawyers. She had a half-finished nursery and a broken heart. On the 3rd night after the restaurant incident, she was lying awake at 3 a.m., staring at the ceiling. Her daughter a restless presence inside her. A wave of panic, cold and suffocating, washed over her. How was she going to do this? How could she bring a child into the world alone while fighting a man who viewed them both as inconvenient baggage? Her mind, desperate for an escape, for a lifeline, drifted back. Back before Liam. Back to college. Back to a time of genuine, uncomplicated friendship. A name surfaced from the depths of her memory. A name she hadn't spoken in years. Julian Devereaux. Julian had been her best friend at Columbia's Graduate School of Architecture. They were inseparable, a dynamic duo fueled by late-night study sessions, cheap coffee, and a shared passion for creating beautiful spaces. He was brilliant, funny, and kind, with an old soul wisdom that belied his age. He understood her creative vision in a way no one else ever had. There had been a spark between them, an unspoken "what if" that had always lingered in the air, but the timing was never right. After graduation, Ivana met Liam and Julian. Julian had inherited his family's vast international real estate and technology empire after the sudden death of his father. He had moved to Monaco, disappearing from her life into a world of unimaginable wealth and responsibility. They'd exchanged a few emails, a Christmas card or two, but the years and the distance had created a chasm between them. Why was she thinking of him now? It was foolish. He was practically royalty in the business world, a name whispered with reverence in the pages of Forbes and the Wall Street Journal. He wouldn't remember her, not really. But the thought persisted. Julian had been the one person who had always felt safe. He was the one person she had ever known who operated not from a place of calculation, but from a place of genuine integrity. On a desperate impulse, she got out of bed, her laptop casting a pale blue glow in the dark room. She didn't have his number, but she had his old college email address. It was a long shot, a ridiculous Hail Mary pass in the dead of night, but she had nothing left to lose. Her fingers hovered over the keyboard. What could she even say? "Hey, remember me? My life has imploded, and I'm a mess." It sounded pathetic. Instead, she started typing the words, flowing with a raw, unfiltered honesty she hadn't allowed herself to feel. Subject: a voice from the past. Julian. I don't even know if this email address is still active or if you'll ever see this. It's been a lifetime, I know. It's Ivana. Ivana Hayes, as you knew me. Sterling now. Or not for much longer, it seems. I'm writing to you because I'm in trouble. Not the kind of trouble you can fix, I don't think. The kind of trouble that leaves you sitting on the floor of a dark room at 3 a.m., wondering how everything went so wrong. My husband is leaving me. I'm 7 months pregnant. He told me that our marriage and our unborn child were a business decision that no longer suited his brand. I'm telling you this not because I want your pity. I think I'm telling you this because you were always the most decent person I ever knew. You always saw the world in terms of structure and integrity and solid foundations. And my foundation has just been dynamited. I feel so incredibly lost, and so alone. I hope life has been kind to you. I see your name in the news sometimes. The Devereux Tower in Shanghai looks like a masterpiece. Your father would have been so proud. Forgive me for this intrusion. I don't expect a reply. Yours, Ivana. She hit send before she could second-guess herself, the click of the mouse echoing in the silence. She closed the laptop, a wave of embarrassment washing over her. What had she done? She had just unloaded all her messy, pathetic drama onto a billionaire she hadn't spoken to in a decade. She crawled back into bed, feeling more foolish than ever. She finally drifted into a fitful sleep, dreaming of falling buildings and empty rooms. She was jolted awake a few hours later by a sound she hadn't heard in days. Her old phone, the one Liam had effectively rendered obsolete, was ringing. She had left it on the nightstand, a forgotten relic. The screen glowed with an unknown number, a long string of digits with a country code she didn't recognize. 37. Monaco. Her heart leaped into her throat. It couldn't be. With a trembling hand, she answered the call. Hello, Anna. The voice. It was deeper, richer than she remembered, but it was unmistakably him. The gentle, calm cadence that had talked her through so many all-night design critiques. No one had called her Anna since college. Tears sprang to her eyes instantly. "Julian." "I got your email," he said, his voice warm and impossibly close, cutting through the thousands of miles of ocean between them. "Are you okay?" "That's a stupid question. Of course you're not okay. Where are you?" I'm at home." "In Brooklyn," she stammered, overwhelmed. "Stay right there. Don't talk to anyone. Don't sign anything. Don't agree to anything. Do you understand me?" There was a sudden command in his voice, a protective authority that was immensely comforting. Okay. I have a board meeting in Geneva. I can't miss, but my plane is being fueled now. I'm flying to New York. I'll be at Teterboro Airport in about 9 hours. A car will be at your door in 8 to pick you up." Ivana's mind reeled. It was all happening too fast. "Julian, no, you can't just... You don't have to do that. It was stupid of me to email you. I was just having a moment." "Anna, stop," he interrupted gently. "You said your foundation was dynamited. Well, I happen to be in the business of building things on solid foundations. Let me be your friend. Let me help." He paused, and his voice softened. "I read that email, and the only thing I could think was that any man who would describe a child as a liability isn't a man at all. He's a monster. And you don't fight monsters alone." She choked back a sob. In one short phone call, he had offered her more genuine compassion and support than her own husband had in years. "Pack a bag, Anna," he said, his tone leaving no room for argument. "Just the essentials. For you and the baby. We'll figure out the rest later. I'll see you in 9 hours." The line went dead. Ivana sat on the edge of her bed, the phone still pressed to her ear, the morning light beginning to filter through the windows. 9 hours. In 9 hours, everything was going to change. She didn't know where she was going or what would happen next. All she knew was that for the first time since Liam had walked out the door, she wasn't alone. A hand had reached out across an ocean and a decade, and she was going to take it. Hope, fragile but persistent, began to dawn in the desolate landscape of her heart. The 8 hours that followed were a whirlwind of surreal activity. Ivana moved through her home, a place that had transformed from a sanctuary into a mausoleum overnight with a new singular purpose. She packed a single suitcase, maternity clothes, comfortable shoes, a dop kit, and the few small baby items she had allowed herself to buy, a soft cashmere blanket and a tiny pair of hand-knitted booties. Everything else felt tainted part of a life that was no longer hers. She walked through the rooms one last time, a tourist in her own history. She touched the cool marble of the kitchen island where Liam had left the papers. She looked out the window at the skyline they had dreamed of conquering together. There was no sadness now, only a quiet, resolute anger. This house was not a home. It was the lavish set for a play in which she had been an unwitting actor. Promptly at 4 p.m., a black, impossibly sleek Mercedes Maybach pulled up to the curb. The driver, a discreet man in a dark suit, didn't even need to ring the bell. He simply stood by the open rear door, waiting. Ivana locked the front door of the brownstone behind her, dropping the keys into her purse. She didn't look back. The drive to Teterboro Airport in New Jersey was silent. The tinted windows shielded her from the chaos of the city, creating a serene, insulated bubble. It was in that bubble that the magnitude of what was happening truly began to sink in. She was 7 months pregnant, leaving her entire life behind, based on a single phone call from a man she hadn't seen in 10 years. It was insane. It was reckless. And yet it felt like the only sane thing to do. The Maybach didn't go to the main terminal. It bypassed the commercial traffic, entirely gliding through a private security gate onto the tarmac itself. And there it was. It wasn't a small jet like the ones she'd seen chartered for corporate trips. This was a Gulfstream G650ER, a magnificent machine of pearlescent white, its twin Rolls-Royce engines humming with latent power. The Devereux Group's stylized D logo was emblazoned on the tail fin. The jet's door was open, the stairs already down. As Ivana stepped out of the car, a figure appeared at the top of the stairs. Julian Devereux was different, yet exactly the same. The years had sharpened the boyish features she remembered into a handsome, commanding presence. His dark hair was shorter, with distinguished hints of silver at the temples. He wore a perfectly tailored grey suit, but had eschewed a tie, the top button of his white shirt undone. He looked every bit the global titan the magazines described, but his eyes, they were the same kind. Intelligent eyes she remembered, and they were fixed on her with an expression of profound concern and genuine warmth. He descended the stairs quickly and met her on the tarmac. He didn't offer a handshake or an awkward hug. He simply took her suitcase from her hand and gently placed his other hand on her arm. "Anna," he said, his voice a low, reassuring rumble. "I'm so glad you came." "Julian, it's too much," she whispered, gesturing at the incredible plane. "Nonsense," he said with a small smile. "It's just a mode of transport. The important thing is that you're safe. Come on. Let's get you out of this humidity." He led her up the stairs and into the cabin. The interior was a study in understated luxury cream leather, dark, polished wood, and brushed platinum accents. It felt less like a plane and more like a luxurious Manhattan penthouse. A flight attendant with a warm smile greeted them, offering Ivana a cool towel and a glass of water with lemon. "Get settled," Julian said, gesturing to a plush armchair. "Takeoff is in 5 minutes. We're headed to Geneva for my meeting. Then we'll continue on to Monaco. You can rest. We can talk. Whatever you need." As the jet began to taxi, Ivana sank into the butter-soft leather. The powerful, smooth acceleration of the takeoff pressed her gently back into her seat. She watched out the window as the sprawling suburbs of New Jersey fell away, followed by the iconic skyline of Manhattan, shrinking until it was just a glittering jewel below. She was literally rising above the city that held all her pain. The symbolism was not lost on her. Once they reached cruising altitude, the flight attendant served them a light meal, a simple, elegant spread of grilled salmon, steamed asparagus, and quinoa salad. Ivana, who hadn't had a proper meal in days, ate with a surprising appetite. Julian watched her, his expression unreadable. He didn't press her for details. He just let the silence sit comfortably between them, a testament to their old, easy camaraderie. Finally, Ivana put her fork down. "Why are you doing this, Julian?" He leaned forward, his elbows on his knees. A few years ago, he began his voice quiet. "I was engaged. Her name was Isabel. I loved her very much. We were a week away from the wedding when I discovered she was not just being unfaithful, but was actively working with one of my biggest corporate rivals, feeding them proprietary information. She wasn't just betraying me. She was trying to destroy my family's legacy. The woman I was going to marry saw me as nothing more than a mark." Ivana's eyes widened in shock. The aftermath was ugly, he continued, a shadow of pain in his eyes. It taught me a valuable lesson. There are people in this world who operate without a conscience, who see others as rungs on a ladder. And when you encounter someone like that, loyalty to those they've hurt becomes paramount. When I read your email, I didn't just hear a friend in pain. I recognized the language of a specific kind of betrayal, the kind that makes you question your own judgment, your own worth. I'm doing this because no one should have to face that alone. His honesty was disarming. He wasn't some white knight riding to the rescue. He was a man who had his own scars, who understood her pain in a way no one else could. What Liam did to you to his own child, it's unforgivable, Julian said, his voice hardening. And we're not going to let him get away with it. My legal team in New York is already on it. They'll be in touch with your lawyer, and if you don't have one, they'll find you the best. Liam thinks he's playing chess. He has no idea what's coming. A wave of relief so powerful it almost made her weep washed over Ivana. For the first time, she felt like she had an ally, a champion in her corner. But that's for later, Julian said, his tone softening again. That's just noise. The most important thing right now is you and the baby. Your health, your peace of mind. Which brings me to my proposition. He leaned back. I didn't just come to get you, Anna. I came to offer you a job. Ivana blinked. A job. The Devereaux Group has been trying to launch a new division for years, Devereaux Habitats. The concept is sustainable, forward-thinking urban living. Not just buildings, but communities. Beautiful, functional, and environmentally sound. The problem is, I haven't been able to find the right person to lead it. Someone with the vision, the talent, and the integrity to do it right. I've always known that person was you. Your work, your ethos. It's exactly what I've been looking for. He gestured around the cabin. I want you to be the head of the entire division. We're breaking ground on our flagship project in Monaco in 6 months. I want you to design it. You'll have an unlimited budget, complete creative control, and the best team in the world at your disposal. A beautiful apartment overlooking the Mediterranean is waiting for you. We have excellent childcare, the best healthcare, a new life, a chance to build something real, something that lasts. Ivana was speechless. It was an offer beyond her wildest dreams, a professional lifeline of staggering proportions. To go from feeling like a discarded liability to being offered the reins of a major international project was a dizzying reversal of fortune. I'm pregnant, Julian. I'll have a newborn. I'm aware, he said with a smile. I'm not Liam. I see a brilliant architect who is also about to be a mother. I don't see a conflict. We'll build a nursery next to your office if you want. Your child will be welcome everywhere. Tears welled in her eyes, but this time they weren't tears of sorrow or anger. They were tears of overwhelming gratitude. He wasn't just offering her a refuge. He was offering her a future. He was reminding her of who she was. Not a victim, not a jilted wife, but a creator, an architect. Yes, she whispered the word, feeling inadequate to convey the depth of her emotion. Yes, Julian, I'll do it. His smile reached his eyes, erasing the last of the shadows. Good, he said. Welcome aboard, Anna. It's time to start building again. As the Gulf Stream soared through the night sky high above the Atlantic, Ivana felt the shattered pieces of her life begin to shift. They weren't magically fixed, but for the first time she could see a blueprint for how they might fit together again, forming a new structure, stronger, more beautiful, and built on a foundation of true integrity. While Ivana was finding her footing in the sun-drenched haven of Monaco, Liam Sterling's world in New York was beginning to show its cracks. He had anticipated Ivana's departure would be messy, filled with tearful phone calls and angry recriminations. Her complete and utter silence was unsettling. One day, she was there, a problem to be managed, and the next, she was simply gone. The brownstone was empty. Her old phone number was disconnected. It was as if she had vanished into thin air. At first, he felt a surge of relief. This was cleaner than he could have hoped for. He was free. He celebrated with Chloe, showering her with expensive gifts. A new Richard Mille watch, a closet full of designer clothes, and taking her to all the most exclusive parties and restaurants. He was rebranding himself just as he'd told Ivana. He was the young, dynamic wolf of Wall Street, with a beautiful social media-savvy girlfriend on his arm. His life was a curated feed of success and excess. Chloe was deliriously happy, documenting their every move for her millions of followers. Couple goals, billionaire lifestyle, living my best life. For a few weeks, it was exactly what Liam wanted. The image was perfect. But the silence from Ivana's side began to gnaw at him. His lawyer reported that he had been contacted by a representative from Cromwell and Thorne, one of the most powerful and feared law firms on the planet. This wasn't some local Brooklyn divorce attorney. This was a firm that handled sovereign nations and Fortune 500 companies. They didn't request. They made statements. The first statement was that Mrs. Sterling would not be contesting the divorce, but would be filing for sole physical and legal custody of their unborn child, citing abandonment and emotional distress. The second was a quiet, polite inquiry into the full unredacted financials of Sterling Capital for the past 5 years as part of the standard asset division process. Liam scoffed at the custody demand. Let her have the kid. It simplified things. But the financial inquiry sent a jolt of pure ice through his veins. The truth was, Sterling Capital wasn't the unassailable success he projected. It was a house of cards. He had made his name on a series of incredibly high-risk, high-leverage trades in volatile emerging markets. He'd had a spectacular winning streak, but his luck had turned. For the past year, he had been covering massive losses with funds from new investors, a classic if sophisticated Ponzi scheme. He was robbing Peter to pay Paul all, while maintaining the outward illusion of unstoppable success. The affair with Chloe and the lavish spending weren't just a midlife crisis. They were part of the facade, a desperate attempt to project wealth to keep attracting new money. He had left Ivana so abruptly for 2 reasons. First, the impending birth of his child felt like a deadline, a point of no return that would tie him to a domestic life he couldn't afford financially or emotionally. But more importantly, he was terrified that an impending financial collapse would drag her down with him. The house was in her name, a single, clean asset he'd made sure was protected. In his own twisted way, he thought by cutting her off cleanly and generously, he was saving her from the firestorm he knew was coming. He could declare bankruptcy his personal assets, shielded by corporate structures, and she would be left with the brownstone free and clear. It was a cruel, selfish act, masquerading as a kind of perverse chivalry. Now, with Cromwell and Thorne digging into his books, the game had changed. These lawyers were sharks. They would find the inconsistencies, the creatively structured shell corporations, the phantom trades. The pressure mounted. He started snapping at his staff, drinking too much. The charm he wore like a suit of armor began to tarnish. Chloe, for her part, was not equipped to handle the shift. Her support was conditional on the lifestyle he provided. When a credit card was declined at Bergdorf's, she threw a tantrum. When he was too distracted and sullen to pose for a perfect Instagram photo at a gala, she accused him of not caring about her brand. "What is wrong with you lately, Liam?" she whined one night in their sterile glass-walled Tribeca penthouse. "You're so stressed. It's bringing my vibe down." "It's just work, Chloe," he muttered, staring at his phone, watching stock tickers glow red. "Well, whatever it is, fix it. The auction for the summer house in the Hamptons is next week, and I want the one with the infinity pool." He looked at her, truly looked at her, and saw the vacuous, self-absorbed black hole at her core. He had traded Ivana's genuine warmth and intelligence for this. For a walking, talking billboard, whose only concern was her vibe. The thought was so bitter, it made him want to smash something. The first real public crack appeared in an article in the Wall Street Journal. It was a small piece, a business briefing column by a well-respected financial journalist named Mark Riley, titled "Questions at Sterling Capital." It didn't make any direct accusations. It simply pointed out that the firm's declared returns seemed wildly inconsistent with the performance of the markets they claimed to be invested in. It raised questions about their lack of transparency. The article was a pinprick, but it hit a balloon under immense pressure. The phones at Sterling Capital began to ring. Old investors spooked by the article wanted to pull their money out. New investors who had been on the hook suddenly got cold feet. The delicate inflow of cash he needed to cover his outgoing payments slowed to a trickle, then stopped. Liam was trapped. He was working around the clock, trying to move money, to cook the books, to find a way out. But every door was closing. The SEC, prompted by the article, and likely an anonymous tip from Cromwell and Thorne's forensic accountants, launched a formal inquiry. The wolves were at the door. He was at his desk late one night, staring at a mountain of debt that was about to come crashing down on him when his private line rang. It was Chloe. "Liam, you are not going to believe this," she squealed, her voice dripping with venomous glee. "Are you looking at Instagram? You have to see this." "Chloe, I'm busy." "No, you need to see this now. Someone just tagged me in a post from Vogue France." Against his better judgment, Liam pulled up the app. And there it was, a professionally shot photograph, elegant and breathtaking. It was Ivana. She was standing on a balcony, overlooking the sparkling blue Mediterranean, her baby bump prominent under a chic flowing white dress. She looked serene, powerful and radiant. Beside her stood Julian Devereux, his arm resting protectively on the small of her back. The caption read, "Vogue exclusively. Congratulates Julian Devereux on the appointment of famed architect Ivana Sterling as the new president of Devereux Habitats. Sterling will be heading the company's new €1 billion sustainable living project in Monaco. A new vision for the future is born." Liam stared at the screen, the blood draining from his face. Monaco. Julian Devereux. One of the richest, most powerful and most respected men in the world. He hadn't just lost Ivana. She had upgraded in a way he couldn't possibly comprehend. She wasn't a victim. She wasn't crying in a brownstone in Brooklyn. She was untouchable. She had won. And in that moment, seeing her standing there, glowing with success and happiness, with a man who could buy and sell him 1,000 times over, Liam Sterling finally understood. He hadn't been discarding a liability. He had thrown away his single greatest asset, and his meticulously crafted world was about to burn to the ground. The Vogue France article featuring Ivana and Julian was a masterfully played move. It instantly reframed her narrative from that of a victim to a powerhouse, leaving Liam's story of upgrading to a younger model looking petty and foolish. While Ivana settled into a peaceful new life in Monaco, Liam's world in New York began to implode. The quiet inquiries from Ivana's new formidable legal team, coupled with a damning article in the Wall Street Journal questioning Sterling Capital's impossible returns, triggered a full-scale SEC investigation. The House of Cards. Liam had built on high-risk trades and new investors' money. A classic Ponzi scheme began to collapse. His assets were frozen. The moment the money stopped flowing, Chloe Vance vanished, taking what cash she could find and wiping her social media of his existence. Liam was left alone in a borrowed penthouse with the walls closing in. The man who saw people as assets and liabilities was now facing his own liquidation. 2 months after arriving in Monaco, Ivana gave birth to a healthy, beautiful daughter. She named her Hope. Holding her child, Ivana knew every moment of pain had been a necessary step to this perfect moment of peace. Julian was there, a pillar of quiet strength, his awe at holding the newborn, a testament to his character. The news of Liam's arrest broke a few weeks later. Ivana watched it on a screen in her new sunlit studio, with Hope sleeping soundly in a bassinet beside her. The story was sordid $90 million in investor fraud, a company built on lies. The final poetic twist was that the informant who had delivered the irrefutable evidence to the authorities was not connected to Ivana's team, but was Liam's own resentful junior partner. The man who built his life on betrayal was undone by it. Watching the footage of a disheveled Liam being led away in handcuffs, Ivana felt no vengeful glee. There was only a profound, weary sadness for the man she thought she knew. Julian stood beside her, a comforting presence. "He did it to himself," he said quietly. Ivana nodded, turning off the screen. The past was a closed chapter. Her foundation hadn't been destroyed. The faulty structure had simply been cleared away, making room for something real and enduring. 2 years passed like a gentle, healing tide. The Monaco skyline now featured the first tower of Project Terra, a marvel of sustainable architecture that cemented Ivana Sterling's status as a global icon. Her life found a beautiful rhythm, balanced between her groundbreaking work and her time with Hope, a bright, happy toddler who knew nothing but love and sunshine. Her friendship with Julian had evolved as naturally as the seasons, blossoming into a quiet, profound love built on mutual respect and shared joy. He was not a replacement for Liam. He was his antithesis. He celebrated her triumphs, soothed her worries, and was a devoted father figure to Hope, who adored her jewels. One crisp autumn evening, Julian took them out on his yacht, the Serenity, to watch the sunset paint the French Riviera in hues of gold and rose. With Hope asleep in her arms, Ivana felt a sense of peace she once thought impossible. "I was looking through old college files," Julian began, his voice soft. "I found our final project. Even back then you were designing futures. You had this incredible ability to see not just what was, but what could be." He met her gaze, his own eyes full of warmth. "You did that for me, Anna. You came back into my life and showed me what could be again." He reached into his jacket, pulling out a small velvet box. Ivana's heart stilled. Inside was not a traditional diamond, but an architecturally designed ring, a band of brushed platinum holding a single flawless sapphire that seemed to float the color of the deep sea at dusk. It was perfect. It was her. "I know promises have been made and broken in your past," he said, his voice steady and sincere. I'm not asking you to forget that. I'm asking you to build something new with me. A new foundation, built on honesty, respect, and a ridiculous amount of love. Ivana Sterling, will you build your future with me? Will you marry me? Tears of pure joy streamed down Ivana's face. This was not the end of a story of betrayal. This was the true beginning. She had lost a house, but gained a world. She had lost a broken promise and found an unwavering partner. Looking from the exquisite ring to the face of the man who had seen her at her most broken and helped her become her strongest, she saw her future. She saw a lifetime of shared laughter, quiet comfort, and enduring love. Yes, she whispered, her voice thick with emotion. Yes, Julian. 1,000 times yes. He slipped the ring onto her finger. As the yacht sailed toward the glittering lights of the shore, Ivana Sterling, architect of her own magnificent destiny, knew she was finally truly home. Ivana's story is a powerful testament to the resilience of the human spirit. It began with the cruelest betrayal, a life torn apart by calculation and ego. But it didn't end there. She reminds us that our foundations are not built by others, but by our own strength, integrity, and the courage to hope again. From the ashes of a broken marriage in Brooklyn, she rose to build a new life, a new legacy, and a new love under the Monaco sun. She teaches us that sometimes the greatest acts of creation begin with an act of destruction. If Ivana's journey from heartbreak to triumph moved you, please give this video a like to show your support. Share this story with someone who might need to hear a message of hope and resilience today. And for more incredible, true life stories that inspire and empower, make sure you subscribe to our channel and hit that notification bell. Your support allows us to keep sharing these powerful narratives. Thank you for listening.